think it's getting time to dust my bottle that I haven't put anything in just yet.
Yeah, the whole table probably.
Where does dust come from? It's so weird.
Human skin cells, I've been told. That's kind of gross, isn't it?
It can't be just human skin cells.
Well, I mean, we got
enough
the
traffic
cats,
up here
too.
to have like that much dust.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's weird.
I don't know the science of dust.
Air. Air hardening and falling to the surfaces.
Hard air?
Hard air.
Okay.
Did you ever hear that story? It was a Grateful Dead, and I don't know what record label it was, but they kind of wanted out of their record label. They wanted out of the deal or something. And they were working with a producer. And they were being extremely difficult or extremely hippies.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Bob Weir said that he wanted the sound of heavy air.
Yeah. Yeah. He was given was it the engineer he was given a hard time about, or the producer?
I don't remember, but he requested the sound of heavy air.
Or for the air to be heavier in the recording. Like, it's not right. The air needs to be...
He wanted the sound of heavy air.
Yeah.
Weird. So.
You know what's funny, though? Like, I don't know that heavy air necessarily has a sound on its own, but I feel like you could come up with a frequency that would mimic the feeling of heaviness.
I mean, there's a couple things. Digital is really the evolution of digital was really the first time that you could actually record silence and actually have it be true silence, because analog they were machines and they made noise.
Yeah.
So like it is possible to strip everything out in digital where there's actually nothing. And a good example of that was on one of the first times it was used was there was a spot in an Alanis Morissette record where it just stopped. And then she came back like on the downbeat and it was hit really heavy. And it was very impactful because it went to dead silence on the CD.
Actual silence.
Actual silence. Whereas in the past, you would hear the hum of the tape machine, or if they wanted true silence, they would literally have to splice out a section of the tape and just have a blank piece of tape there. But even the mechanism of the tape playing created a sound. So, like, in my mind, like, that sound of the machinery turning and the warmth and all the stuff that's going on in the silence, so to speak, is more like the heavy air, whereas as the just true silence is the absence of everything.
Well, it's like being in the room. There's breathing. There's mouth noise. There's cats. Cats doing whatever they do. Getting their claws snagged in your pants. That's what that cat does.
So.
Yeah, but there's sounds just to the being in a space. I mean, even in a home, the sounds of a home, they have, I know certain light switches that are being turned on or off depending on the sound of the switch, or the house settling or how the wind blows.
And it's weird how
it's subtle things.
Recording picks up things that you wouldn't even know make sounds. Like you can hear,
Yes.
you can hear, like even with digital, you're picking up so much stuff because the mics are so sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a shout out we recorded this week, and even the past couple of weeks we had some issues, and then lo and behold, it was some lighting that was plugged in near one of the mic preamps, just the plug being near it, and then a telephone cord that was
like
just hanging there, but not going to a phone. It was just going there, but it was laying across another cable, and it made noise. So it's just amazing how many things can make noise. Like you sitting here every once in a while with the power speakers, they'll make a little noise.
Yeah.
A little.
Well, there's also a phenomenon that happens when you're next to an amp. If you get a cell phone really close to an amp and it's getting or sending a signal, it does this weird little Morse code sounding thing. And it took us a while to figure out what is it that's doing that.
You can't set your phone on a guitar amp because it'll make weird
don't do that.
robot noises.
Yeah, don't do that. And make sure you're not crossing your power cables over your XLR cables, your microphone cables. So
it's even worse to cross power over guitar cables because guitar cables are shielded and grounded in a different way than microphone cables. So that can
Well, I
present
don't-
a problem.
I don't necessarily deal with the instrument cables so
Yeah.
much as you do.
Well, even a guitar cable is shielded, so it has even better protection than, say, like a true speaker cable has no shielding. It's just bare copper wire. So a lot of times you can run, if you run electrical wire near it, like parallel to it where it's touching, then it can create all sorts of havoc for you. Yeah, speaking of running, country roads.
Country roads.
Drive on down the country roads.
We've been on a lot of roads lately, you and I.
We've been recording a lot of 1, 2, 3 shout outs at a time, maybe because we weren't going to be here for various reasons of traveling.
Yep. We've
And
had a
hopefully
lot going on.
February seems like it's going to slow down a little bit and we'll be home a lot more. Because it was not just
Well, we thought
music,
Yeah.
but we did travel for music too. It seems like we haven't been home since we've been in Denver.
Yeah, we just took down the Christmas tree.
Yeah, we took down a Christmas
Anybody
tree in
else
February.
late on taking, like, usually it has to be down by the New Year person. I'm not that. I really enjoy the coziness of a Christmas tree. But I'm generally not a February. It comes down like before Valentine's
Yeah, usually
Day.
New Year's Day has been a thing.
It's lately. I mean, within the first week of the new year, I like to have it, in process, being processed back into its storage space. But this year, it's been a doozy thus far.
So I have to say, speaking of country roads and John Denver, I guess as a kid, I thought he was kind of like hokey in a way, weirdly. It was very much sing-along songs. I mean, they're very catchy, very hooky. And now that I listen to him more as an adult, I kind of appreciate his songwriting. I think that he's a contributor to the great Americana song catalog.
Absolutely.
Because like Dylan and the Dead, and even though maybe his songs, you wouldn't probably put them in the same category or stylings per se, he writes about the things that Americans do and Americans love, and I mean, how more Americana can you get than that? He might have where I say I tend to have like a more sad outlook or I write more sad songs than happy songs for sure.
Melancholy,
I
I'd
think
say.
that Dylan and the Dead, they're more introspective and maybe more cynical, whereas John Denver tends to cast a happier light on the things that he sees. And the whole traveling of it, the traveling around the United States and the women that he's loved and just the different things that he writes about, he seems to cast like a happier turn on it. And I appreciate that, And
Is that okay? So we've talked about like the mood of songs quite a bit lately, and I wonder if a happier thing lends itself to being perceived as hokey, as you would say, because we're aware, I think, even as children, that life's not all gumdrops and rainbows.
I think that sometimes that's very true. That it's easier to relate to maybe the glass half full or half empty, rather. Like kind of the negative view of things. That things that, and even in a sense, even the song, even though it feels kind of happy, it does have a sadness to it to me.
There's a melancholy.
There's a
there.
melancholy and
Yeah.
sadness to it. And isn't it interesting that, and I'm just formulating this as we talk, but isn't it interesting that there's so many songs about traveling, and a lot of them are about the longing, I guess because the sadness and the melancholy of this is the longing to be home, like take me home, I want to be home, because everybody associates home as comfort. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people associate home as comfort and the longing to be home. And I find it interesting that the song is not the other way around, like take me away from home, country roads, or I want to go travel, I want to ramble,
Yeah.
I want to go check things out, because it's interesting to me, there's a lot of songs in this style and in this vein about driving songs, truck driving songs and driving songs, and it's a whole culture of people in the United States that like to travel, right? And these are songs that really resonate well with them because of what they want to see and how they travel the United States. I can imagine traveling down the country roads, traveling through West Virginia. In fact, a lot of times when we go through Virginia, we sing the song just a cappella
Well,
because it's so
as soon as you
relatable.
cross the state line,
West Virginia.
You welcome to West Virginia.
Yeah.
And then we automatically just go Mountain Mama.
Yeah, Mountain Mama.
Yeah.
It's so funny because
It's tradition.
Yeah, and it's I just think it's fascinating to me that people can be so different yet so alike. Like people love a lot of the same things, right? Like people long to be home, but people also yearn to travel.
Want to go
yearn
adventure.
to explore and yearn to see things.
Yeah.
And it's so funny that I was thinking of this earlier today, and I don't know what brought this into my mind, but it's funny. Like when I was a kid, it was like I wanted to. When I was growing up, it's like hurry up and get a good job because you don't want to live in a van down by the river. And now it's like I want to sell all my stuff and live in a van down by the river, and it's like that longing to like have less responsibility and just travel, I think is something that really resonates with people, especially in today's day and age because of the financial burden that's on everybody right now and the sociological burden of like trying to do and say the right things all the time. That
it's so
people are
easy.
becoming more and more reclusive and just want more and more. And
It's so easy to get wrapped up too. Like you get wrapped up. We're at such an interesting stage of humanity where we have so much wonderful and helpful technology, but that can also be time thieves to us. And we can look up from a thing that is enticing, but we haven't done anything, like accomplished anything. And hours have passed us.
Well, I think you take a thing even like the telephone and it's changed so much in one generation because, just one generation ago, a phone would ring and if you weren't home, you never knew. Unless they left a message, if you even had a message machine, and then later on you had caller ID. But it was expected that if you called and you didn't call back, then it wasn't that important, right? Because like you would try again if you wanted somebody. And now it's evolved to the point where, or if you left a message, then sometimes we'd be able to call them back the next day.
Yeah.
Or when it was convenient for you. Like a lot of times I remember even leaving messages or hearing many, many messages in my time. When it's convenient for you, could you give me a call back?
Yes.
Or
at your convenience.
Or call me tomorrow or sometime later this week, could you give me a call? And it seems like, now that we have phones on us.
Everything's an emergency.
It's like, if somebody doesn't get a hold of you, then not only is it an emergency, but like they panic, right? Because like, well, she's not answering her phone.
Yeah.
Why is she not answering her phone? And then it's also like there's this unspoken expectation. If I called you, you're going to call me back whether I leave a message or not. You should see the caller ID and call me back.
Call,
And if it goes more than an hour or two, there's this seemingly like this weighty perception among many people that, and I still operate a lot of the times into my folly maybe that if you didn't leave a message, then maybe you just wanted to chat with me and you didn't really have anything you wanted to talk to me about. But it's gotten me in trouble many times where I'll let a day or two go past because there wasn't a message.
Yes.
And now it's easy to leave a message too because you can text right afterwards.
It,
which I tend to do. Like if I call somebody and I miss them and there's something I want to say.
I don't forget,
a lot of times I'll switch over to text and say, hey, I just wanted to know this. When you have time, could you let me know?
Yeah.
Or whatever, But now I think a lot of people expect a call back, So I think that just on the phone itself, there's this more... It's weightier on
more
people.
expectation.
There's more expectation. But then you add in texting. You add in instant messaging from all these apps.
It's a social pressure that didn't used to exist. It just didn't have any platform to exist.
All these social platforms that notify you immediately. Oh, somebody liked your photo. Somebody commented on your photo, and you feel this pull to comment back. So there's this constant...
It's addictive, too. Like, it's been proven that...
Absolutely.
Like, checking your social media... For instance, for those likes, your brain drugs you. Your brain likes the likes. It likes having people having viewed your content. Your brain will give you dopamine.
But along with all that, I think your brain now is constantly on...
You can stop right there.
This perception.
Your brain is constantly
But it has
on.
this perception that, like, you need to respond all the time. You're constantly on. You're constantly, you have something you have to respond to and do. And it's easily kind of like messes with your mind, right? Because like you can easily waste an hour or two, like you said, responding to a photo, answering this, doing this, and then you get sidetracked on other things, and your phone rings, and you text somebody back, and you could spend an hour or two like this, and then some of the work that you wanted to get done or plans you have for that day kind of slips away from you.
Meanwhile, dinner time has passed you by. Yeah.
Right, it's easy to beat yourself up for all the stuff you didn't do and think, oh, well, I never did anything. I didn't do anything today. You know, and you get consumed by this kind of expectation of having to answer everybody back immediately, or even for yourself, I want to know what they said. You know, my phone says, oh, Facebook said this. Well, what did they say? I got to open it and look at it, and then, you know, read all the other comments and see who it is, and well, why is this person here, and what are they saying, and how are they feeling today? And now you feel the response to respond to them, and it's just, sometimes it can be just one thing after another. So I think it's one of the things that's happened is the world's changed really in one generation quite a bit.
Well,
but we haven't learned how to deal with it for ourselves yet.
You also have, like, when we were growing up, there was no such thing that we were aware of called an algorithm.
Right.
So we put on ourselves this whole perceived social pressure, right, to get back with somebody or check on the comment or whatnot. And then on top of that, there's the actuality of these social media platforms, which I don't believe is malicious. An algorithm isn't malicious. It's a program to feed you what you tell it you like. So on top of our perceived social pressure, we have an algorithm working to keep us on whatever platform we've chosen to use at the time.
Right.
So it's feeding us the things that we already like. So we get onto, for instance, I'm going to pick on Facebook a little bit. We get onto Facebook and we are responding to a comment that somebody left with a clever emoji or a meme or whatever. And then you just do a boop, you just do a little scroll. And it doesn't take long before you are engrossed. It's showing you things that interest you. It's giving you ideas. It's showing you reels of what other people are doing.
Well, it's so smart too, right? Because you put all this information on there for years, and we've done it to ourselves because we've created profiles.
Yeah.
And the profile,
we told it what we wanted to see.
It's not for us as much as it is for them now, because they know all these things. And for every idea that you have, Facebook has multiple things they can show you to go there. And we all know one of the real dangers, I think, of the technology is because, not that it's malicious, but because it wants to keep you there, it doesn't show you alternate information or things that you may disagree with.
So you're in an echo chamber.
Right. You become in this echo chamber of, oh, well, I like hard rock music. I don't get exposed to bluegrass. I don't get exposed to this thing. I don't get exposed to these other things. It becomes an echo chamber. And that can become not, you know, maybe somebody would say, well, that's not really harmful in a music
politically
setting.
It can be.
Politically, it can be very harmful because your ideas are never challenged. And instead of, you know, interacting with people or pages or ideas that maybe would challenge some of your beliefs.
Even among your friends, it'll hide some information. It won't show the pages.
Unless you're just on their page all the time anyway. But yeah, it becomes very dangerous because we're not having the type, because in most personal situations, if you sit down at the, you know, dinner table with somebody that has different beliefs than you, most people don't like conflict, right? So they will work it out and they'll talk and they'll actually hear somebody out, or at least listen to them, even if they disagree. But the problem is that it's so easy to invite conflict on these social media platforms, and
because there's very little consequence to be had.
Right? Yeah. Like, what's the worst they can block?
Unfriend.
Me or unfriend me. Yeah. So it's like, no, I don't have to listen to this. You know, screw you. And if you say your opinion, people can easily just smack you down.
Right.
You know,
or even without any care or thought to hearing something that might be insightful. And I think you bring up such a valid point about the dinner table. I've always thought, specifically sharing a meal with someone, it breaks down really harsh barriers between people. I think if you can slurp some spaghetti with somebody you disagree with, you're gonna find some common ground.